Chapter 17. "We're trapped!" shouted Petey, racing up the passageway. "Men have lowered a net from the top of the tower." "I'm not going back to Francesca," cried Sonny, hopping up behind Petey. "I refuse to be trapped day and night in a cage so I can watch that conceited girl have a rich social life." "Hey, I just remembered what euthanasia is," piped Petey. "It means mercy killing." "Now you tell us," I muttered. "Okay, Petey, go round up the others. Get everything loaded in the trailer. Make sure you get Julie and her egg safely aboard. Darla, you go with Petey." "Right, Robin," she said. "Sonny," I said, "where's Kenny?" "Taking some pizza to his mom, Robbie, honey. Pineapple and anchovy, I believe, he said." "Damn," I said, bounding up the passageway. I darted through an opening to the top of the sign and found the alarmed falcon backed up against the tower. Above us, blue-garbed figures leaned out from a tower opening and struggled to secure the all-encircling net. More blue-uniformed men hovered nearby, and a noisy craft held aloft by rapidly spinning wings that beat the air like an enormous bee. "I can't bite through the net," shouted Norris. "We're trapped. They've bound it tightly against the tower." I looked around in desperation. "Norris, you've got to drop Maltese. It's our only chance." "What?" cried the stricken falcon. "You've got to throw her off," I shouted. "The weight might break the net." "But, Robin," he protested, "it's a long way down. Maltese is in no condition to fly." "Toss her, you stupid bird," snapped Sonny, darting up behind me. "She's just a dumb statue." Norris stared at me questioningly. "Robin, is it—" "It's true," I said. "Throw her, quick." Norris hesitated, then gripped the statue and heaved it savagely over the side. Light bulbs shattered, sparks flashed. The plummeting figurine hit the bottom of the net and thudded sharply against the tower. Ropes stretched and strained. The net slapped hard against the sign, popping more bulbs. As the men on the roof fought to hold on, the heavy statuette scraped against the concrete. The net sagged, but didn't tear. "Norris, stay here until I come back," I commanded. "Try to keep the men from coming any closer, but don't get your wings snagged in the net." He nodded dumbly. I raced back down the passageways, took a wrong turn, got lost, turned in another direction, and at last found my way to the tunnel that led to the trailer. "Honky," I called. "Is Julie aboard?" "Yes, Robin, with her egg. Mr. Jerriger's in there too, trying to get Phoebe and the chicks calmed down." "Good work, Honky. Where's Petey's lighter?" "In the trailer, under the cat kidneys." "Get it," I commanded, "and tell the women to unload all non-essential food items." "Non-essential in whose opinion?" he demanded. "We don't have time to argue, Honky. Bring me the lighter." "Robin," called Petey, looking down toward the street from a net-covered opening in the sign. "Some sort of big red truck just pulled up, and a crew of men climbed out. They're doing something. I can't quite make out what. Oh no, they're extending a ladder. A long one." I paused, looking at Petey. "Do you think it could be Mr. Spade?" He returned my gaze. Well, gee, probably not." "Yeah, Petey, probably not." "Here's the lighter, Robin," said Honky, hurrying toward me with virtually no limp. Grabbing the lighter, I carried it over to an opening in the sign, flicked the lever, and held the hissing gas flame against the net. The threads of the net smoked, sputtering and charring, but refused to ignite. "Damn, we need more heat," I said. "Oh, here, permit me," said Honky. With his beak, he turned a dial on the lighter. A powerful jet of flame shot out from the orifice. Good heavens! I exclaimed. Actually, Robin, said Honky, you were the one who discovered that particular feature. Not that I think you remembered it. I pointed the fiery blast at the net. Liquid fire dripped from the ends as the net strands burned intensely with a smoky black flame. Quickly, I proceeded down the passageway, igniting the net at every opening. We heard a ripping sound. The net's starting to tear, called Honky. There goes Maltese, shouted Petey. Each of us watched from a different opening as the statuette tore free and plummeted toward the ground, turning end over end in a stately free fall. The men on the red truck ducked for cover as the black sculpture shattered against the sidewalk in a wave of ricocheting fragments. Hooray! Shouted Petey and Honky. Get ready, men, to help move out the trailer, I commanded. I'm going back up for Norris. I found the Falcon and Sonny crouched behind a metal sign panel as the remains of the net burned smokily around them. Norris, you'll have to carry the trailer yourself, I said. We'll try to help you. You lied to me, Robin. Come on, Norris. I can explain later. We've got to get out of here. Why should I help you? Norris, we're your friends. We care about you. Maltese fell, Robin, he said dumbly. She's broken. Not to worry, Nori, honey, said Sonny. She didn't feel a thing. What say, big guy? Let's blow this joint before we all wind up an FBI statistic. A fragment of concrete blew out above our heads. Duck! I shouted, hitting the deck. More concrete shattered above us as Sonny and Norris crouched beside me. My God, they're shooting at us. I can see through a crack, said Sonny. It's the men in that flying machine. They've got guns. These guys mean business, I said, as flaming drips from the burning net singed through my feathers and burned my flesh. Now they've made me mad, said Norris. Someone is definitely going to be eaten. More bullets impacted around us. Then the thumping rhythm of the whirling blades abruptly changed as the craft suddenly veered sideways. It's Kenny, shouted Sonny. He just flew into that machine and decorated the face of the man at the controls with a slice of cold pizza. Chapter 18. Are you actually proposing that we reside here? Asked Blanche, gazing about with distaste. I, for one, do not intend to begin my married life camped out in a pine tree. What married life? Grumbled Petey. It's only temporary, I explained. Kenny promised to scout around for something more suitable. In the meantime, this will do as a hideout. I think we're pretty well concealed up here. Even Norris and the trailer are well camouflaged. To escape the men with guns, we had flown a great distance west to a dense thicket of trees in a broad green area Darla guessed was a park. Below us, a small stream, suitable for bathing, burbled from the hillside. I did not escape from Francesca's cage to live the life of a rustic bumpkin, said Sonny. My God, there are bugs in this tree. Only little furry brown ones, said Darla. Robin's right. We must make do for now and not complain. Phoebe pushed aside her yellow curtains and opened the bedroom window. Somebody better get that homewrecker out of my trailer before I feed her bastard egg to my kids. That's what we'll do, Darla said cheerfully. We'll build a nice nest for Julie, a real one. Robin, would you like to help? I suppose so, I said wearily. My wings ached. My burns stung painfully. I needed a cigarette and a drink. and I wondered how Mr. Spade would ever find us up here. Would he even bother to look for us now that the Maltese Falcon was destroyed? Never in all these weeks as a displaced person had I felt such despair. Honky fluttered in through the bower of thick branches. "Hey guys, check out this cigarette I just scored. It's most unusual."
Uh-oh.
Nest building, a challenge in applied geometry. You gather a twig here, a piece of string there, perhaps a bit of fluff from your own downy nethers. Sniggering, you mug your local falcon for a feather or two. Pile it on, tuck it in. Cosmic. You take another drag and Hunky's exquisite cigarette. Wow, that's intense. You ponder your crude adumbration. More twigs, more fluff. We will build a nest that will live for 1,000 years. A nest of engorged fecundity.
Oh my God.
A nest to swaddle the fruit of your fervid genes. You pause, suddenly attuned to your own borborgamus. Why stop with a nest? Why not a cathedral of twigs? An amphitheater of fluff? A megapolis of detritus? It's a wonderful thing, said Petey, stepping back to admire our handiwork. It's an offering to the sacred Earth Mother, declared Honky, beginning to weep softly. It looks like a tumbleweed that blew in off a trash pile, observed Blanche. Oh, I think it will do, said Darla. We'll just straighten it up a bit. It's certainly big. The same, alas, could not be said for Honky's magical cigarette. It had dwindled to nothing, like an evanescent imagined enchantment. Not a pleasant night. The furry brown bugs grew ever more numerous, and a bone-chilling fog settled upon us. There is also the issue of Norris, who seems to have sunk into a black depression. It is more than a little nervous making, living in close proximity to a morose falcon. He sulked for hours after Darla suggested as gently as she could that he not leave the tree until it was safely dark. Then he dragged back and devoured some sort of powerfully odoriferous black and white cat. He wouldn't share it either, muttering that we were all lucky he wasn't dining on pigeon instead. So, even though we were unusually ravenous, we had to make do with some stale fortune cookies that Kinney found in a dumpster behind a Chinese restaurant. My fortune read, "You will live a life of sumptuous luxury." Somewhat ironic to contemplate as I shivered on a damp pine branch and plucked creepy bugs out of my feathers. The coverage in the morning newspaper was the most sensational so far. The enormous black headline read, "Bullets fly as killer pigeons evade police dragnet." A sidebar added, "Fierce fusillade damages heritage sign." It seems our cozy sign was some sort of National Historic Landmark, and I thought it was just a big advertisement for booze. Next to a photo of the bullet-riddled sign was an unflattering police artist sketch of the beleaguered victims of the unprovoked assault, us. Said Petey, studying the drawing. They've got Honky's peg on the wrong foot. And who's that grossly obese character? Why, that's you, replied Honky. A pretty good likeness, too. In a gesture that could hardly be characterized as tolerant of eccentrics, the city is now offering a reward of $10,000 for our capture dead or alive. Dead, noted Mr. Geriger. That seems rather extreme. Except as a description of my love life, commented Sonny. Since when is borrowing the occasional cigarette a capital offense? Demanded Petey. If anything, you're doing people a favor taking away those toxic things, said Julie from her sprawling, ramshackle nest, no longer the object of its builder's unalloyed pride. The news article also quoted the pilot of the police helicopter flying machine as saying he would not rest until the felonious seagull who attacked him was brought to justice. Hey, he started it by shooting at you guys, said Kinney, puffing on a cigarette he had just swiped on nearby Haight Street, source of Honky's magic smoke. He passed it to Honky. Damn, it's just an ordinary lordy-lard, complained Honky. Kinney, did you steal it from a young guy dressed in black with long head feathers? Yeah, Honky, just like you told me. But all the young guys on that street wear black clothes and have long head feathers. We have found a partial solution for the creepy little bug problem. We collect them into small piles and shovel them down the throats of little Wallace Jr. and baby Ina. So far, no ill effects, and it's taken the pressure off the overworked food gatherers. Only Darla, Blanche, Phoebe, and Kenny dare venture out of the tree during daylight hours. To cheer up the grieving falcon, Sonny has been recounting lurid tales of the amorous adventures of Francesca's more uninhibited friends. I'm not sure that's such a good idea. Mr. Geriger suggested intensive counseling, but Norris refused, citing the therapist's all too obvious failure with his last client. To pass the time, we've been working our way through numerous cigarettes retrieved by Kenny. No more winners, but we've been enjoying the plentiful smokes. Sobriety continues unabated. Darla has requested in her forceful way that Kenny stay out of liquor stores. As a consequence, Petey has stated that with no sherry to dull his reason and weaken his inhibitions, he will be unable to enter into any matrimonial engagements at this time. I pray Phoebe doesn't grow impatient and dragoon some other unfortunate person into a marital entanglement. The pine boughs parted, and Darla and Blanche popped in looking as pale as it is possible for persons fully covered in feathers to appear. Robin, we've made a gruesome discovery, gasped Darla. I think there's been a murder. A murder. Unfortunate for the victim, but just the thing to distract an aspiring detective from his desperate circumstances. I set to work at once on the case, interrogating the two shaken women on what they had seen, discussing the matter with my associates, alerting Norris and Kinney to stand by, and pacing back and forth among the crawling bugs as I waited impatiently for night to fall. At last, it was dark enough to venture forth. Robin, do be careful, said Darla. Yes, Honky, cautioned Julie from her nest. Please don't take any unnecessary chances. That goes for you too, Petey, added Blanche. And stay out of bars. Following the route specified by Darla, we soon spotted the suspicious white van, box on wheels, parked next to a padlocked dumpster behind a nondescript wooden building. We alighted on a nearby roof to study the scene. I hate it when they put locks on our food, said Petey. It's so unfair, agreed Honky. I always assume there's something especially delectable in there when I see a lock. It smells like something large and unwashed died quite some time ago, noted Sonny. Yes, it's most appetizing, replied Petey. Very clever, I said. The killer parked the van next to the dumpster so people would think the odor was coming from the garbage. I wonder if the body is still in the vehicle, said Mr. Gerriger. No one seems to be around, I said. Let's go investigate. We flew down and hovered laboriously above the small square windows high in the rear doors of the dented van. Do you see anything? I panted. I see some legs, cried Sonny. My God, the corpse has been savagely dismembered, gasped Petey, struggling to stay airborne. Odd thing, though, said Mr. Gerriger. One of the legs is white and the other appears to be brown. Multiple murders. I hope the white leg is not Bridget O'Shaughnessy's, said Honky. I doubt her slim, shapely calf is quite that muscular, I replied. Feeling faint from exertion, I glided down and landed in the deep shadows under the van. The others quickly joined me. We've got to get inside, I said. I don't see how, Robin, said Kenny. All the windows are rolled up tight. Look, said Sonny, pointing upward. There's a damaged section in the metal underside. It appears to be rusted all the way through. Good work, Sonny, I said. Now what I want you to do is squeeze in through that opening and inspect the bodies. In your dreams, replied the parakeet. She turned to her would-be significant other. But, honey, do you want to make your best girl proud of you? Oh, very well, he sighed. I suppose there's no one else. The small bird flew up and bravely wormed his way through the jagged opening. Good gracious, we heard him exclaim. There's a big pile of legs in here, and arms too. What's an arm? Asked Honky. I think he's referring to wings, I replied. Mr. Gerriger, can you work the latch on the door? I'm trying, he replied, but I don't have enough strength. We all turned expectantly toward Sonny. Oh, all right, she said, but it's very ungentlemanly of you to ask. Sonny flew up and disappeared through the hole. A moment later, we heard the latch on one of the back doors click open. As Kenny and Norris tugged on the handle, a leg tumbled out and clattered across the concrete, narrowly missing Petey. We gathered round this grisly relic of a heinous crime. Rigor mortis has obviously set in, I said, tapping gingerly on the stiff, naked limb. A neat surgical cut at the knee, noted Petey. No blood at all. We're obviously dealing with a professional, I replied. One with unsettling proclivities, said Honky. Look, he's removed all the inner contents of the limb. Probably ate it with relish, said Norris enviously. I walked over to the severed end of the leg and peered into its dark, cavernous interior. It's been painstakingly hollowed out, I exclaimed, my voice echoing eerily from its anatomical depths. It's the work of a depraved fiend, or perhaps a despicable ghoul, suggested Honky. You're all nuts, said Sonny, hopping up on the evidence. This isn't a real leg, it's a fake. What a bother, said Petey. She's right. Of course, we're all happy for the many victims who weren't viciously slain and cruelly dismembered by the leg-following killer. Still, Sonny's revelation came as something of a disappointment to me. I'm sure Mr. Spade would have felt the same had it happened on his first big case. Honky, what's that lettering on the side of the van? I asked. It says Trinello's Mannequin Exchange. Repairs, renovations, transplants. What's a mannequin? Asked Kinney. Oh, I don't know, said Petey. It must be some sort of artificial person. Why would anyone want an artificial person? Asked Honky. Aren't there more than enough real people already? It does seem suspicious, I said. Oh, I don't know, said Sonny. Some folks may prefer a measure of artificiality in their friends. Right, Norris? Could be, he replied, just as they might prefer a nice parakeet appetizer if they haven't eaten all day. How fortunate no one has ever called me nice, she replied. Gee, I wonder if Mr. Trinello has a spare mannequin leg in my size, said Honky, peering into the moonlit van. I could use one with a real foot. I'm sure they don't, said Mr. Gerger, looking about anxiously. Perhaps we should leave before somebody comes. Wait, I said. This leg appears to be of a light yet substantial construction. So, said Petey. So, we happen to be in need of some sturdy, weather-resistant housing. Norris, could you carry this limb? Sure, Robin, he said, but I'm not going to fall in love with it. Not a leg man, huh? Winked Sonny. Ken, honey, how about grabbing one of those nice arms for Bud and me? Should I, Robin? He asked. An excellent idea, I said. A wing would be just the right size to house two parakeets. Not that arm, Ken dear, said Sonny. I could never feel comfortable in a home with an outstretched finger pointing so accusingly. I might develop a severe case of guilt by association. A strange night. Flying home in the moonlight, we kept hearing screams from below. Residents of both sexes appeared to be going through some sort of violent emotional tumult. Especially blood-curdling were the screams of solitary pedestrians on Haight Street as we flew along low in a fruitless search for Honky's long-feathered, black-garbed smoker. We had to settle for the usual assortment of richly satisfying yet unmagical commercial brands discarded in panic by fleeing smokers. I wonder what all the commotion was about. We lodged the leg in a crotch of the pine tree. The wing we wedged in some branches above Phoebe's trailer. A most fortuitous find, commented Darla, inspecting our new communal home. This leg is quite roomy, and we can store food items in the foot. Perhaps we could persuade a woodpecker to put in some windows, suggested Julie from her nest. Let's hope so, said Blanche. Otherwise, it could get awfully stuffy in there. Oh, I think it will be fine, said Julie. And I'm glad no one was murdered after all. You fellows are to be commended for solving that mystery. Here's something odd, said Darla, emerging from the leg. I found this feather in the toe. Let me see that, said Julie. Why, it's my feather. How can it be? I said. You haven't been off your nest since we got back. Are you sure it's yours? A girl knows her own feather when she sees it, she replied. See, it's my lovely shade of dove gray. Julie held the feather up to her breast. The match was perfect. You know, said Petey, the vehicle we were kidnapped in was a white van. You're right, Petey, said Darla. That's why I flew down to inspect that van when I spotted it. What does all this mean? Asked Julie. It means, I said, that we must find this Mr. Trinello and investigate him. This could be the break we have been waiting for. What's that noise? Hissed Honky. It's coming from close by, whispered Darla. I recognize that repellent racket, declared Blanche. It's the sound of drunken carousing. Chapter 19. And so, 3 more long-lost colleagues joined us in our treetop anatomical domicile, christened Me Alpha by Petey. Our tipsy guests are Zeb, Jasper, and Yancey of the celebrated Test Group D. It's not a bad little house, said Zeb, dazzling the ladies with his film star looks. Not bad if you're obliged to live in a tree. But that falcon pal of yours gave us quite a start. Are you sure he can be trusted? Asked Jasper, his thin neck twitching as he spoke. Perfectly, I replied. Norris has given us his word he won't eat anyone. He's still tormented with remorse for eating poor Wallace by mistake. Who's Wallace? Asked Yancey, a stocky fellow with coarse, mottled feathers. Wallace was our cage mate who lived with that pigeon you met in the trailer, explained Honky. Julie is incubating his egg. Wallace laid an egg? Asked Yancey, impressed. I laid the egg, explained Julie from her nest, newly relocated to the Mannequin ankle. Wallace, engendered it. A period of embarrassed feet shuffling ensued. I contemplated the furry bugs making themselves at home in the moonlit leg opening. So, what have you fellas been drinking? Inquired Petey. I don't recognize that aroma on your breath. It's beer, exhaled Yancey. Wonderful stuff. Very common to the nerves, twitched Jasper, not looking at all calm. Sounds delightful, said Honky. And where does one obtain beer? No answer. None. We've been raiding liquor stores, I said, breaking the awkward silence. Norris and Kenny, our single buddy, are most adept at securing sherry, but we've had to lay low recently. Yeah, I know, said Zeb. The heat's been pretty intense. We were having an innocent smoke in Union Square yesterday when some bozos in blue tried to throw a net over us. What happened? Asked Darla. We got away, he replied. The fat lady with the pigeon chow concession attacked them with her signs. I think she was protesting something. So they tied her up by her wings and dragged her away. That's terrible, exclaimed Darla. I can't believe you people used to eat that awful stuff she peddles, said Jasper. Give me a bag of fried pork rinds any day, added Yancey. Yes, we read about your mugging that tot, said Honky. We didn't mug him, twitched Jasper. We only swiped the little snitch's snacks. I believe that falls under the usual definition of a mugging, noted Petey. I wish I was back at the lab, said Yancey. What a life that was. We're desperate to get back as well, I said. We've been doing everything we can think of to find a way. Yancey has a special reason for wanting to go back, remarked Zeb. Oh, what's that, Zeb? Asked Darla. He's got the hots for one of the lab assistants, answered Jasper. Right, Yance? You know it, Jasp, he replied. Maybe you dudes remembered her. A hot blonde tamale by the name of Mary Ann. What a babe! I suddenly felt ill, and it wasn't from the bug crawling up my leg. I can see why the trend in newspaper readership is down. Every time Kenny brings back the morning paper, my wings start to shake and I'm gripped by powerful sherry cravings. For example, this morning's banner black headline read, "Killer Pigeons on Murderous Rampage." Good gracious, Zeb, I exclaimed. Did you fellows murder someone for their beer? Of course not, he replied. But last night I heard your falcon buddy snapping some poor wretch's bones. Norris, I called, did you by any chance abduct and eat a person? Why, no, he replied, waking from his slumbers. Let's see. What did I eat last night? Oh, yes. Tiring of cats, I decided to try one of those shaggy animals that people are always dragging around on chains. I obtained one of the compact models as a sample. How was it? Asked Yancey. Extremely delicious, said Norris. I ate everything except for the tail, the rhinestone collar, and the little metal tags. According to this article, said Honky, scanning the front page, the homicidal birds were seen in the vicinity of Haight Street near Buena Vista Park. Multiple witnesses reported seeing them carrying the bloody remains of a dismembered corpse. Well, we were on Haight Street, I said, but I don't recall seeing any homicidal birds. Yes, but Norse and Kinney were also out there, Darla pointed out, and they were transporting the leg and wing. Completely artificial, I replied. That much has been firmly established. These are mannequin parts from the highly suspicious Mr. Trinello, who will be investigating as soon as Kinney gets back with my drink. This is a blunder, said Zeb gravely. A serious blunder. I might have known it, said Blanche. Smoking, drinking, and now this. Implicated in a shocking murder. Petey, what do you have to say for yourself? Petey roused himself and ruffled his feathers. Where's Kenny with that damn drink? I suppose I should take heart from the example of Mr. Spade. You can't really call yourself a professional dick in this town unless the authorities are trying to pin at least one murder rap on you. At that moment, the seagull returned, empty-footed. Police cars are all around the park, Kenny shouted. Men are unrolling big nets. Another day, another desperate fight for our lives. As Sonny points out, if our community of refugees gets any larger, we'll have to charter a city bus to effect our escapes. We hurriedly transferred Julie's eggs and as much of her disorderly nest as we could to Phoebe's trailer. Of course, we had to abandon our cozy Micalfa and wing. Darla is confident they will be discovered by the authorities, who will realize their error and retract that ridiculous charge of murder. I hope so. Zeb insisted on leading the way as Norris and Kinney hauled the heavily laden trailer. The rest of us trailed forlornly behind, dodging the occasional sharpshooter's bullets. Thank goodness we were able to evade the police helicopter. I was not surprised to observe that uncouth Yancey was a crude, graceless flyer. Zeb contends the way to escape detection is to avoid public places and seek refuge among the city's affluent citizens. He says The police tread very lightly around the privileged classes. No gunplay or unnecessary roughness allowed. So, Zeb has brought us to some sort of walled estate at the top of a hill across the street from a tranquil green park. We're in a posh neighborhood called Pacific Heights. The main house is a monster, all pink stone and monumental columns. We're ensconced at the bottom of the lushly landscaped garden in what Petey identified as an old carriage house. Entry to the deserted attic was obtained via the application by Norris of a brick to a small window up under the eaves in back. The attic is dark and creepy, but well sheltered from the weather and extremely private. No bugs except for a few reclusive spiders, which Phoebe promptly fed to Wally Jr. We put the trailer down on a dusty cardboard box and set about making ourselves at home as best we could. "Where would you like your nest, Julie?" asked Darla. "Oh, I think on that shelf next to that pretty pennant." "What does it say?" asked Jasper, still twitching rapidly from the police gunfire. Julie studied the ornate red and gold letters, descending in size as the faded banner narrowed to a point. "Let's see, it says, 'Souvenir of the Panama Pacific International Exhibition 1915. "Darn, looks like we missed it," said Honky. "Wow, this is pretty swank," exclaimed Sonny, hopping up on the windowsill. "There's a very pricey view of the bay and distant Tiburon. Bud, honey, we've joined the social elite." "What's that big artificial pond?" he asked. "That's not a pond, Bud dear. It's our own private swimming pool and spa. I feel like I'm on my honeymoon." "Me too," said Phoebe, looking accusingly at Petey. "As do I," noted Blanche for the record. "Petey, what are birds of prey?" I asked, puffing on a new mort. "Birds of prey, he said. "Well, obviously, they are birds associated with some theological discipline. I expect they are deeply devout." "I see," I replied. "Then it seems the police have given up on their nets and guns and now intend to send proselytizing birds after us." "Yep, that's what it says here," confirmed Honky, perusing the afternoon paper hot off the press. The immense black-bordered headline bellowed, "Killer pigeons escape again." "No doubt these religious birds are infused with the customary tiresome missionary zeal," said Petey. "Be assured, their dogma holds no terrors for me. I am prepared to challenge them tenant by tenant." "Good for you, Petey," I replied. "Honky, is there no mention of the police finding the mannequin parts?" "None whatsoever," he replied. "What does this mean?" "It means Mr. Spade is right," I sighed. "The police are complete incompetents. We'll have to return to the pine tree and do their job for them." "Damn," said Petey. "Oh well, would you care to gamble on another rice roll?" "No thanks, I'm stuffed," I replied. We were dining at a back alley dumpster in an architecturally eccentric district called Japantown, a short flight down the hill from our palatial new hideout. If you were lucky, you found at the center of your rice roll a morsel of extremely undercooked fish. If you were less fortunate, you encountered marginally edible matter that defied identification. If luck deserted you, a spicy bomb of powdery green stuff detonated in your nose and knocked you on your tail feathers. "Robin, What did you say to Kinney as we were leaving? Asked Petey. I instructed him to follow Zeb and his pals if they went anywhere. I'm not sure we can trust those fellows. Maybe we should ask the tot muggers to leave, suggested Honky. We can't, insisted Petey. We need those men. I'm planning on marrying Yancey off to Phoebe, and I think Jasper is an ideal catch for Blanche. How about Zeb for Julie? Asked Honky. Nah, replied Petey. He's putting the moves on Darla. Don't be silly, I said. They hardly know each other. Love is blind, whistled Honky. You're just imagining things, I retorted. Darla would never be impressed by a flashy character like Zeb. She's much too sensible. Time will tell, said Petey, contributing another cliche to the irritating topic. Here's something interesting, said Honky, studying the paper. It's about those furry little bugs. It says there's an infestation of Fubsy bugs in the city parks. Fubsy bugs, huh? I said, appreciating the change of subject. That's right, said Honky. And according to entomologists, the Fubsy is not a beetle, but is in fact a true bug. Well, that's a relief, noted Petey. I'd hate to think our Wally Jr. and baby Ina were eating beetles. Hey, Scotty, it's the killer pigeons. We looked up from our Japanese lunch. Two plaid-shirted men, possibly tourists, had wandered down the alley to relieve themselves. What makes you say that, Danny? Asked the other man, releasing a vigorous stream. After some fumbling, Danny commenced his own gushing discharge. Well, there's the white one with the gold peg leg, the chubby one, and the red one. I don't see any falcons, though, said Scotty, shaking his nozzle to reinvigorate the flow.
Ew.
I tell you, Scotty, there's a $10,000 reward out for these buzzards. Hand me your cell phone, quick. I'm calling 911. I can't hand you my cell phone, Danny. I'm processing 4 double sakis and about a gallon of green tea. How fatiguing, I said. Let's go, men. We flew home to the hideout, taking a circuitous route to prevent our being tailed by birds of prey. Violence I was prepared to deal with. Religion was another matter entirely. I tell you they're drunk, insisted Blanche. We don't know that for certain, Blanche, said Darla. Zeb merely expressed a desire to take a nap. Lined up motionless on a shelf above Julie's nest, Zeb and his buddies had swiveled their necks around and buried their heads deep in their wing feathers. In the fading light, they resembled 3 fluffy, decapitated mannequins. I leaned toward the repugnant Yancey and sniffed. The yeasty odor of beer was unmistakable. Yes, they're probably just napping, I lied. I don't think so, Robin, said Kenny. Kenny, I'll take your report privately, I replied. Has everyone eaten? Everyone except Norris, said Darla. As usual, he'll be grabbing something after dark. The garbage cans were even more wonderful than we'd dared hope, said Julie from her nest. You wouldn't believe the delicacies they discard. Did you see anyone from the house? I asked. 2 boys came out, reported Mr. Jerger. They were bouncing some sort of ball. It's such a shame, said Sonny. All that money, and they were wasting precious shopping hours tossing a ball through a metal loop on a pole. It's true, wealth is wasted on the rich. Materialism is no route to personal fulfillment, declared Mr. Jerger. Well, Bud, honey, Sonny replied, when you decide to pursue another route, do let me know. In the meantime, I'd settle for a charge card from Nordstrom's. Excusing ourselves, we departed with feigned nonchalance and followed our single spy to the site of his afternoon discovery. Less than 2 blocks away, in a well-cloistered garden behind another imposing home, under a cloth roof suspended on 4 metal poles, on a large, overturned tin tub, sat a silvery metal barrel, smelling invitingly of beer. "How does it work, Kenny?" asked Petey, as we all fluttered down to the tub. "Well, Petey, from what I could see, it's a lot easier than holding up liquor stores. One of us has to sit on that lever, then the rest of us gather underneath and catch the foamy liquid as it drips out." An unexpected test for altruism. We looked at each other. No volunteers stepped forward. "With my handicap," said Honky, "I couldn't possibly balance on that lever." "Me neither," said Petey. "I wouldn't have the strength." "I'm much too big," said Kenny. "I might bust it." "Oh, all right," I said, "but save some for me." We had a beer party, a wonderful party. Petey contrived to jam a stick in the lever. Much beer was consumed, oceans of creamy, rich beer. We did not go back to the pine tree. We did not investigate Mr. Trinello. We did not discuss theology with birds of prey. We did not upbraid the tot muggers for their irresponsible behavior. Later, much later, we found our way back to the hideout, tucked our heads under our wings, and took naps. Long ones.